All right, big disclaimer right away. In case you are absolutely satisfied with your view of human beings, like you know what they're about, you know where they come from, maybe you shouldn't watch this video, because the hypothesis I'm going to present here is so world-shattering that it's actually kind of scary, you know. So, and I'm serious about it. Like, you would probably not be able to view humans as you did before after you've learned of what I'm about to tell you. So yeah, you've been warned, basically. And if you're not afraid, let's roll. Greetings, this is Eugene the Philosopher, the greatest living philosopher up to the unfortunate passing of Quentin Robert D. Nameland, who has been the greatest living philosopher before me. So in this video, I want to talk about the hypothesis of Eugene McCarthy, PhD by the way, who has something interesting to say about human origins. Well, we'll clarify a little bit later. I'll just preface this with saying that I've only learned about this hypothesis literally 2 weeks ago, even though the hypothesis itself could be traced as far back as at least 2013. So I've been completely unaware for more than 10 years, even though I keep track of all kinds of, alternative scientific ideas. So it's absolutely crazy. And there's almost no information about it on YouTube either. So well, I've decided to make this video because I think this is the most important idea about human origins since at least Charles Darwin himself. So basically 150 years or something like this. It's that important, I believe, at the very least, okay? So yeah, since it requires a lot of things, a lot of citations, a lot of images perhaps, I will just share you my screen right now.
Well, here we are. We are at the page of the hypothesis I'm going to advertise to you, which I think is really sound and it's incredible, but it's a rabbit hole, and if anything, it's like a mother of all rabbit holes, okay? I'll obviously link this website in the description because there's walls of text here. There's so much evidence you wouldn't believe, actually. We'll just skim through it really quickly. But the author of the hypothesis is the one Eugene McCarthy, who is PhD in genetics, also apparently a member of this academic society, Phi Beta Kappa. And the hypothesis, okay, let me start from something else. He says that he worked in various genetic laboratories, but he focused on hybrids. And you know how they say, like, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if you work on hybrids for a while, then suddenly you may think, well, maybe a human being is a hybrid, huh? What an interesting idea. That's why this hypothesis, he calls it the hybrid hypothesis, okay? And there is some intrinsic, of course people say, the common understanding of hybrids is that they're sterile, right? They cannot give birth to new offspring, but this is completely wrong, actually. And the general, you can read all the arguments against this assumption, let's put it this way, but the summary is that the usual result is a reduction in fertility, not absolute sterility. And in fact, our closest relative is chimpanzees, right? But if you look at the human fertility, like you can see, I've been searching for it right here because I don't remember where it is in the text. So compared to chimpanzees, humans are not very fertile, and I'm not even talking about, the modern day reduction in fertility, which is most likely caused by environmental factors, the pollution and things like that, the plastics and whatnot. But even baseline human fertility, look at this. In humans, the sperm isn't very of good quality compared to chimpanzees. Look, 0.2% of abnormal shaped, and in humans it's 18. So if we are descendants of chimpanzees, or like a common ancestor with chimpanzee, as is usually assumed, and we diverged some 5 million years ago or something, you would expect that natural selection would keep the good fertility, but somehow humans are much less fertile than chimpanzees. That's an interesting idea, which supports the idea again that humans may be actually hybrids. Well, now you may ask a question, well, hybrids of what and what? Well, since we are close to chimpanzees, right? Like some people quote this figure of 98% or something like that. We may keep it. So his idea is that it's probably where like what is called back-cross hybrids. So chimpanzee has hybridized, I'm gonna use this language in case of any problems with YouTube. Chimpanzee has hybridized with some other animal, let's put it this way, and then the offspring has mated with other chimpanzees. So it has had this imprint of another parent, so to speak, but then over many generations, like the fraction of chimpanzee gene, like DNA and stuff, increased, right? So to the present day 98% or something. So yeah, this is kind of the basic idea, and this would kind of solve most of the problems with fertility, right? Or at least the hypothesis assumes that this would be the case. I think this is entirely reasonable, right? But now the question might be, what other animal could hybridize with chimpanzee to produce something like a human? And the author, Dr. McCarthy, has made a list of human traits not seen in other primates. And like in hybrids, you usually do exactly that. Like you look at a hybrid and you like identify what it looks like, and then you have to identify like what kind of animal it looks like, and then in order to determine the second parent, you need to list all the differences between the hybrid and this first animal that you've identified, right? So all these differences should be let's say a consequence of another parent being in the picture, some other animal, okay? So we can maybe identify another animal that human is a hybrid of with a chimpanzee, and it's quite a long list, so I'm not gonna read it all to you. So as you can see, we're quite different from apes, from monkeys, from primates, and in pretty significant ways, actually. Like one of the really problematic things to explain from like a generic sort of gradualist evolution would be kidneys. I'm not sure if it's somewhere here. Organs. So this is very problematic, okay? Because like, why would that be the case? Why wouldn't we have kidneys just like any other primate? But again, as you can see, it's a very long list. So it's very. I'm not gonna read all of this, but it contains pretty obscure things like snuggling, tears, alcoholism, terrestrialism, basically that we don't live on trees, etc. That we are not afraid of water. Like for example, in zoos, how do they keep monkeys in check, so to speak? They surround them with moats with water, and monkeys are afraid of water, and humans aren't. Well, at least most humans. Let's put it this way. Maybe some humans are more monkey than others. Okay, I cannot swim, for example, but I'm not necessarily afraid of water. Okay, yeah, so all of these traits, believe it or not, can be found in another animal. And this other animal, drum roll, is the ordinary pig. So, basically, the hypothesis, if you look at it this way, states that at some point, perhaps, the author doesn't explicitly say this, but from context, as I understood, that's what he believes. Some 5 million years ago, there was an event where a chimpanzee have had fun, YouTube and stuff, have had fun with a pig, and then the resulting offspring have back-crossed to other chimpanzees, so it started mating with other chimpanzees. And over many generations, the genetic, let's say, how would you call it? Genetic investment of the pig, so to speak, has dwindled, okay? However, like all of these differences arise exactly from that. And like literally, I'll show you one other paper in some later sections of this website, but literally you can state it like this, roughly. It's also very rough, okay? That we are as different from monkeys as the pigs are different from monkeys. Or rather, like, all of our differences with monkeys, the pig has them as well, basically. So, like, it's kind of insane, no? Like, what other kind of evidence do you need, really? I mean, obviously, it's well, if you put aside all the, you know, cultural shock and things like that, like, it's completely reasonable, and it's a very simple hypothesis, but it explains our divergence from chimpanzees completely, or at least I think so, as far as I understood from reading this website. As far as I understand, it explains our differences. We'll talk about brain size, you know, how we actually have bigger brains than both primates and pigs, and also bipedality, like there's actually 2 sections specifically about this. Very interesting idea. So let's take a look, okay? Here the issue of hair is discussed. Like, you know, the domestic pigs aren't very hairy, and this is one of the points in favor of this hypothesis. But some person argued that, well, but wild boars are hairy, and the author responds, well, maybe the other pigs that we are talking about, you know, 5 million years ago, or roughly, I mean, it could have been some other date, depending on how we date things and whether we are correct in this respect. So maybe they were hairless, right? Relatively hairless pigs in ancient times. Like, we know that domestic pigs can lose their hair, right? And this is exactly what is observed with humans. So yeah. And look at the eyes, right? So this is a chimp, this is a human, and this is a pig. It's pretty crazy if you think about it. One other thing, somewhere here, probably, or maybe in other sections, like you can see that it's kind of insane, right? The amount of information here. So yeah. So if you look at like, we can probably determine the genders if we look at the mitochondrial DNA. So mitochondrial DNA is only inherited from the mother's side. And it seems like, I don't remember where it's found, it's somewhere here. Maybe here, let me find. No, it's not here. Never mind then, but it's somewhere here. Where the author says that the mitochondrial DNA in humans is much less diverse than in chimpanzees, in present-day chimpanzees. Which means that the humans actually come from a relatively small number of mothers, okay? And if we assume this back-crossing additional hypothesis, it means that the first chimpanzee, the first animal to give birth to this proto-human hybrid was actually female. So the chimpanzee was female and the pig was male, okay? And moreover, the author actually says that these were most likely bonobos. Not like, there's 2 species of chimpanzee basically, but we're talking about bonobos. And we know for a fact that even, I mean, not present day bonobos, but, you know, their ancestors roughly. And we know that bonobos are pretty, you know, they like to have fun. Again, I'm trying to keep this YouTube friendly. They like to have fun. Even females having fun with females is a pretty rare occurrence in the wild nature, but it occurs pretty frequently in bonobos. So they are pretty likely to have fun. So it's not absolutely crazy to imagine a female bonobo having fun with a male pig, okay? And I'm not gonna make the joke that all men are pigs, because Jimmy Kimmel have already made it. Believe it or not, he had a sketch in 2013 about this theory, about this hypothesis. So it has been known for to many people. And unfortunately, I wasn't among these many people, and yeah, unfortunately, because this is an insanely good hypothesis. I think it explains so much with so little. And this is like the paramount, you know, property of a good hypothesis, of basically a scientific revolution, if you wish. Like, I genuinely think this is kind of like the next big thing after Darwin himself in evolutionary theory. There is, by the way, the stabilization theory of the author, which kind of is essentially his view on evolution, but again, due to time constraints, I'm not going to talk about this. So let's proceed with the hybrid hypothesis. So bipedality, like why are we walking on two legs, is again related to our differences, to our basically pig ancestry. So pigs have, for example, much more adjusted spine. You see a centralization of the spine, which we inherited from pigs. Then we have that like various other skeletal differences with apes, which is like, again, our skeleton is sort of a mixture between an ape and a pig skeleton, and it's kind of easily demonstrated. There's many examples here, blah 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 blah. You can look at it if you wish. Then we have tails sometimes, right? And we have butts, right? Just like pigs. Apes, well, I mean, depends on what kind of ape we're talking about, but it helps in bipedality, you know, in standing upright. So basically our musculature and our skeleton, our anatomy is closer to that of a pig with respect to apes, you know. So we're closer to pigs, much closer to pigs than any other ape, and thus we are more easily achieving this bipedality in walking, standing upright, etc. So this is the brief explanation. And what about the brain, our second difference from pretty much any animal, right? We have a huge brain. Well, monkeys do have big brains. However, there is, as the author states, probably sort of like an upper limit to the size of the brain that can be achieved with ape machinery, so to speak, with ape physiology. And the main problem here, the author claims, is cooling, because the brain generates a lot of heat when it works, so to speak. And if you increase the volume of the brain twice, for example, or if you increase like the linear size, its volume increases cubically, right? So if you increase the brain length twice, its volume would increase 8 times. So the 8 times more heat would be generated. But the cooling rises as the surface area, right? So it rises as a square. So twice larger brain linearly generates 8 times more heat, but can only manage 4 times more cooling. So you have like 2 times excess heat than previously. And ape like vascular system, etc., just cannot handle this heat load. However, if you inherit a cooling system from a pig, where, for example, there's a huge difference in capillaries and like blood vessels and the skin in the first place between pigs and monkeys, and therefore humans and monkeys. Okay, where is it? Somewhere here. Basically, long story short, the pig skin is much better in terms of cooling. Okay, and just like yeah, so there's a layer of fat. I don't actually know where it is. Bipedality, facial feature, dermal. Yeah. So naked skin, fat, thick epidermis, and then richly vascularized dermis, right? Thermoregulatory sweating, etc., etc. So we basically have a much better cooling system, and therefore we can afford a bigger brain, and that's where we've evolved, because we've had this imprint of pig traits. This is some development of a human head. I don't actually know what it's supposed to represent. I mean, I guess it shows us that we're getting pig-like somewhere along the way. Yeah, basically that's the point. We get better cooling, we can have larger brain than any ape, and pig for that matter. Okay, so pigs don't really need big brains, they don't really care, right? Apes do, but apes cannot have bigger brain than they have with the cooling system they have. So better cooling, bigger brain. There you go. Yes, additional evidence. Oh yeah, look, there have been a paper by the same author, very recent, right, August 19th, so basically 2.5 months ago, where he actually looked into the genome of bonobo and a pig And the results is that essentially all nucleotide positions that differ in humans and bonobos are the same in humans and pigs. Voila! It's insane, isn't it? Yeah. I don't even know what to add here, to be honest. Closing thoughts. Maybe Actually don't think anything needs to be added. Like, again, you want evidence, go and look at it. Look how much stuff there is here. Look how many references there are here. Like, it's a really well done work. It's insanely good, I'm telling you. Like, I was amazed, and I'm kind of angry that I've never heard about this. I'm angry at whoever, I don't know, society. Like, why aren't we promoting this? Because it's so horrible, you know, culturally, again. Imagine the culture shock when people said that, you know, humans actually come from apes. That was big enough, right? Now it turns out it's not just apes, it's an ape and pig hybrid, which is kind of horrific if you think about it. But then again, you know, they say extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Well, a human being is an extraordinary evidence, right? And this is your extraordinary claim, which nevertheless makes absolute, total, perfect sense in my eyes. So, yeah. Yeah, there you go. So again, I think that this is the biggest thing after Darwin himself in biology. Okay, like, not just hybrid hypothesis in humans, but generally, like, the recognition of hybridization's role in evolution. But you'll have to look into this. I don't have time to look into this in any detail right now. Well, hopefully this has been useful for you, because again, I cannot overstate how good this is, or understate. What's the expression? Well, you get the idea. This is incredibly important. So please pay attention, and please look into this website. It's really good. There's a list of all the hybrids and all the possible hybrids here. I'm not going to show it to you because of some disturbing imagery. Again, trying to keep this YouTube friendly. So please pay attention.
Well, there you go. Now you are not innocent anymore officially, right? In terms of the awareness about the, at least possible, okay, this is a hypothesis, possible human origins. But I do think that the amount of evidence for this hypothesis is so big that at this point you should prove that it's wrong rather than you should prove that it is real, okay? Like, somehow it seems like humanity seems diverging from apes, not just in a random direction, but exactly to the direction which would be closer to pigs, right? So it's at the very least very weird, right? And you have to explain this with random mutations. I mean, that would require perhaps like every little trait where like humans are more like pigs than they are like apes, requires like a separate, almost separate hypothesis, you know, from the point of view of random evolution, random incremental changes, etc. So yeah, and this hypothesis just promotes a very simple statement, you know, that there have been a hybridization event between a chimpanzee and a pig sometime like 5 million years ago, and there you go. Everything else is history, as they say right now, okay? So yeah, and I've warned you at the beginning, right now you won't be able to perceive humans as you did before you've known about this hypothesis, right? Because whenever you see a human face, since now, you would start thinking, like, you would spend at least a few seconds thinking, like, could this be, you know, a product of breeding between apes and pigs? Maybe yes, maybe not, you know, 98% ape, 2% pig, something like that. Yeah, so there you go. Thank you for watching. The eons are closing. If you wish to support me, please consider joining my Patreon. That is patreon.com/philosopher. See the link in the description. Or if you have a scientific theory of your own and you'd like my help in developing it, please join my alternative science coaching program, also available through Patreon.